Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Quick disclaimer, this is a reread for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame as we prepare for the book Onyx Storm. Spoilers ahead. My lady.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yes, we get Xaden Riorson tips Fedora.
My rider. My dragon rider.
He's such a goober sometimes. But they play it off like he's so cool.
I don't think...
It's so funny.
I thought about this a little more because I quoted this and put this in our book club thing. Xaden with the "Milady" tips Fedora. I half wonder if it was just another way of saying he nodded at her type of thing instead of him actually doing the hand gesture to his eyebrow and tipping an imaginary hat, or if it was just a tips his head as if he were...
Well, I think it's the same thing.
Oh, that's so
I think
cringy.
no matter how you look at it, it's the same thing. Like, there's a nod, right?
Yeah.
But she doesn't say he nods. He tips an invisible hat.
Yeah.
Which, the only thing cooler than wearing a fedora and tipping it to somebody is imagining a fedora and then tipping it to somebody. I mean, I think we just have to accept that this is one of the lame-ass moments of Xaden Riorson.
Well, Xaden has a 10 out of 10 face card. And he can...
What does that mean?
It means that he's so attractive.
His face is 10 out of 10 pretty.
Yeah.
It's interesting that his face is so pretty because mostly we just talk about his bod.
But that would mean he doesn't know how to flirt. And you pointed this out one time.
They don't have personalities. When people are that attractive, their personalities are so flat because it's never been necessitated to be witty or funny. Like the funny, rich actor people... They get that way, it's a learned thing.
I think the reason he doesn't have that side of him is because his entire life was dedicated to becoming a writer. He has other things to be worried about, and that's the whole broody and angry look all the time because that's his whole life. That is his personality. It isn't to be flirtatious.
I'm not disagreeing. Xaden could have been an ugly kid and developed a personality then. You know what I mean? But the people that have just been beautiful forever, can you really name one where they have a personality that you also want to be around?
You don't know.
The world kind of dotes on beautiful people.
Who is it? Riddick and Sawyer are both more of the flirts.
They're funny. They have personalities outside of protect girl, ride dragon, be broody. It's just, and I like Xaden too. Don't get me wrong, but it's just so funny because it's like, oh, the parts that we're missing from Xaden actually make narrative sense because he is too pretty.
Yeah, he is so handsome. He's not going to be that big of a flirt like what we see in Liam or Riddick or Sawyer, who have developed their personalities in other ways.
Even the flirting part outside of that, like Riddick is a funny character. He's always diffusing situations through humor or just adding that note. When he shows up in a scene, you're not only aware of him because she said his name. The air of the scene changes with him in it.
When he enters in a scene, his line could be said first and you know it was him just from what was said.
Yeah, and it has an effect on the other characters. And that's where Xaden also has an effect on the other characters, but it's normally either horniness or apprehension.
And even if he's not this huge flirt like the other guys or any of that, I think that's also part of the attraction is he has these huge walls up and he's only opening them up for Violet. Nobody else sees this side of him.
I think you're probably correct that that's probably what you guys get out of it. It's not what I get out of it, but I think that that is so true for you. It's probably the intention, the way it's written. It's just so fun to me that this character is perceived so differently. Like, I enjoy Xaden. I don't even care about the flirting nature of things at all. It's just a difference in where you see he's guarded, and that's attractive. I see it as he's guarded and kind of aloof and uninterested in anything that doesn't have to do with him.
Very uninterested is a lot of his personality. And then as soon as he starts to show interest, it's like, Oh my gosh. And that even kind of explains this moment where he shows interest in her at the end of this, and that's all she cared about, because he shows interest in nothing. And then to get this split second of a smidge of a smirk.
It's validation.
And a tip fedora, she's just swooning.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's fun, because for you guys reading this, and I don't mean just you, but obviously...
The royal you.
The royal you. There's a population that reads this book that finds his brooding, almost aggressively self-interested position in this book to be something that you're trying to dig through and you're enjoying with Violet when you get that validation through him treating you as though you matter to an extent in these mere moments.
Yeah.
And to me, I see it as, oh, this is an asshole, because he's so self-absorbed that he takes mere moments to grace you with a bit of interest outside of his own world and what's going on in his thing. I don't think one is more correct than the other. I think it's why people like different people in real life.
Yeah, because you get different things from their personality and how you perceive it.
Yeah, and again, it's aided by him being incredibly attractive.
Is Xaden entering and making it all about himself, or is Xaden entering and that's all Violet thinks about? She makes it all about Xaden. I think it's mostly that, where he enters and she's just one-track mind. It's all about him. The entire room is all acknowledging and looking at Xaden and the jealousy and the feelings of what's going on. It's all about Xaden because of Violet's perspective that we're being given.
I don't disagree. I'm saying we don't see Xaden inserting himself in the same ways that we do these other characters, trying to be mindful of another character.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not suggesting that he's a bad character. I think yours and mine perspectives are both valid perspectives.
In a lot of my perspective of Xaden is that previous post-reading high that I had of binge reading all of it, and now going much slower and rereading. I'm curious to see if my opinions change a lot, but I don't think he's as selfish, or he is selfish, and that is what makes his love for Violet so intoxicating, because he is willing to sacrifice everything for her and only her, and he would only do it for her and literally no one else. And we see that this entire series, he would do it for no one except for her.
Yeah, and I see it, whereas initially it's done because of a deal, and we're just now getting to the point where once the dragons get horny, then they get horny for each other.
Yeah.
And I don't see it as an issue with Xaden. Like I said, I just find, if I'm comparing Rhysand and Xaden, Rhysand is genuinely a better dude than Xaden Riorson is. Because Rhysand is acting in the best interest of other friends and things like that, actively pursuing helpful things for those people. And we don't get that for Xaden. I think Xaden makes a great love interest because, like you said, his world exists for him and then eventually Violet. And that's it.
Yeah. Do you remember what chapter 20 ended on?
No.
This was Amber dying and her dragon screaming and crying to the point that the windows broke.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of sad to me. I'm not gonna lie. I get where she had to be put to death and stuff, but I stand by her dragon's expression in that moment. It makes total sense to me.
It was very sad.
It was sad.
Sad, but I mean, no, she kind of had what was coming to her. So chapter 21 is Violet beginning her new duties of archives duty.
Duties. Go ahead.
Her archive duties. This new task, Liam is going with her. This is when Liam meets Jesinia, and he is such a flirt. And I forgot how much he flirted with everyone. Even Violet, he flirts with her.
Yeah, Liam is, again, I am going to lose some points on this. I like Liam so much more than Xaden. He cares. And even though he's being ordered to, he's still doing things to make Violet comfortable within the situation the two of them are in. Like, I'm not going to lie, I teared up when we first went through this and he got killed off, because even though he wasn't the main character, he was my favorite character.
There's so many lines. It just hurts. It just hurts when he's talking about his sister. He talks about his sister in this.
Yeah.
He's carving and writing letters for her the whole time that he's hanging out with Violet. They're laying the groundwork of breaking your heart.
Oh, man. She did a beautiful job of it because I was so attached to him. He flirts with people, but he's also so helpful. He's capable. He's the perfect dude.
He knows how to sign to Jesinia and flirts with her.
Yeah.
In a way that she's
got crazy game.
Yeah. Just
Liam would
so attractive.
Tearing through all of the people sexually in this whole college if he wasn't so busy babysitting Violet. And he doesn't seem to begrudge her that. And I get that right now it's places, hey, I owe Xaden my life. So, that's why I do whatever he asks me to do. But the other aspect of it is he's not just doing what's asked of him. He's going above and beyond.
And this is her time with him that she learns more about the marked ones than she ever would have with Xaden or anyone else. Like Imogen is another one. I think there's someone else that hangs out pretty close. But Liam's the only one that is actually open and talks with her and engages in the conversation.
Yeah, in a way that he treats her as a co-person, not a different human being. And then she's kind of checking him on some things that she doesn't agree with. She ends up not being correct, where she's like, oh, your father wasn't in the death roll for these people, which is a cold-ass move.
I was going to say, it was uncomfortable. Like, your dad didn't die there. And he's like, yeah, I think I would know. I literally watched him. I think she stopped asking questions after that, thankfully. But
leading up to that, it was such a healthy exchange. And even with that, I think the fact that she didn't just internalize that and go, he's full of shit, and write him off. She immediately was like, well, this is an issue I see with what you're saying. How do you explain this type of thing? I think that is so perfect because there isn't a downside to doing that in real life.
And I liked how she handled the conflict of he's being honest and the reports are being honest because in her head at this point, they are factual. And she's very confused of these two facts and that something must be wrong. And she just pockets it away is all she does with it until she has more information.
Yeah, they both did perfectly. I think I really appreciate that part of these characters.
And this is the chapter that she learns that all the marked ones were fostered and there are no records of their deaths. His reaction was really perfect of, what the hell do you think happened to all these kids? And it's not even like they just like went into like an orphanage style thing and they were split up as siblings.
Well, yeah. So as opposed to an orphanage, right, they were fostered out by other people. It seems to be other dignitaries within Navarre.
But I thought it was in pretty large groups because Xaden was with a bunch of them training them. Maybe they were all in the same location closer together that they could, but I thought it was almost like a big group home type of situation.
I took it as the wealthy people were like, well, we'll take on these ones because these ones are promising or something, right? And I think that they ended up going to these distinguished people within Navarre because you have the best chance of reprogramming these children to being loyal by having them around these people who are very committed to your cause.
That makes sense because Amber was also from Tirandor and she was from a family that was not a part of the rebellion.
Mm-hmm. And the only people that were killed in this, it wasn't every adult in Tirandor was killed. It was every person who was a part of the rebellion was killed. And then, of course, their spouses, because they would have been seen as co-conspirators, I'm sure.
And I can't get over the misinformation that's going around that deaths are completely not recorded. And I'm assuming that his parents' deaths are recorded in Tirandor, just not in Navarre.
Maybe, I think the Tirish government ceased to be a thing. I think Tirandor as a place continued to exist, probably impoverished.
Yeah.
It takes a while for infrastructure and things to come back. And when you remove a governing body of people, there is a shift. They ostensibly Tirandor wasn't a different country. It was kind of like if Texas went to war with the United States.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It's always been a part of this larger thing, and then it tried rebelling, and then it didn't work out well, and they slaughtered all of them.
Yeah. So,
and he also
careful, Texas. You're next.
He also talks about his sister and how she's coming up. And I think that's when she finds out that they're conscripted to all join against their will. And I feel like someone should have noticed by year 3, why is every single marked one signing up? But
also, it's clearly not a secret they have to keep. Liam tells Violet, there is no way. You cannot give 100 people information and have it stay within 100 people. That does not happen. You can't tell 10 people something and not have 80 people know it in a week.
I don't think it matters if they do share, if they shout it, but the people that do need to know aren't going to hear it. And there's no record of this information.
But who would need to know it? You know what I'm saying? This is the point of, you have a college of brand new, freshly minted adult people who are drinking and living life as though they're not going to live tomorrow. There is no way that this is a secret.
No, I think you're right. And especially the higher ups, they know. They just don't care.
Absolutely.
It's just they're just not having any record of it.
It wasn't listed in the terms of a treaty.
Yeah. There's 107 kids. That's
dwindling. The youngest was 6 at the time.
No, the youngest is 6 right now.
That's what I mean. The youngest is 6 in this book.
And was born with a mark.
Yes, because it's given by the dragon's magic.
Does that mean the kids were all marked when the parents were alive? She's pregnant and the dragon marks
tattoos them through the womb.
Yeah, and then she's forced to give birth and then murdered.
So I think the marks are imbued as opposed to given in a physical way. Kind of like the thing on Violet's back, right? Her tattoo, but they have a name for it. It's not that anybody went through and did it to her. The dragon didn't have to breathe special fire or anything. It was just their bond creates this mark on them or this tattoo on them.
There was also something in Iron Flame that we learned that all the parents were holding their kids' hands when they were getting their marks, I think. Something to this effect, and they had runes. And that is part of the whole reason why Melgren can't see. There's something with the runes they were using when they were being marked.
Yeah, it's also not addressed as to who actually did the marking. Because
yes,
you would think
it was the Drake. It was Coda.
So they say it's Coda later on, right? But how can Coda mark all these guys and then Melgren doesn't see what's going on? I guess maybe that has to do with your ruin thing, but
I felt that explained why he couldn't, because it was his dragon and his power that did it to them, and he's the most affected by it.
But what do the marks do?
The marks were intended to just be marks. They didn't know it was going to have this effect on Melgren, and I think it has the effect on Melgren because all of the parents were holding this rune that was part of protecting their kids.
Okay. I'm excited to get to that part of the book again because I think I don't understand the process as well.
But overall, she was pregnant, forced to give birth, and then murdered.
Yeah. You think maybe she was hoping she would go like 11 months in. She's like, I'm not ready yet. Your water broke 2 weeks ago. Be like, I don't know. This thing just won't come out. She just duct taped.
I would have probably went the route of her doing a fake belly.
Just continued to pretend to be pregnant.
Yeah.
It becomes a quiet place real quick. You're like, if that baby cries, we're dead.
Like, oh, this is so messed up.
Yeah.
Professor Markum's scroll, she reads this, her and Liam, and we learn that a village is ransacked, supply convoy raided, and it's on the southern border. And this was very surprising to Violet, all of this information, and she's just in shock.
The real kicker is she becomes surprised when it isn't brought up in Battle Brief.
Yes, yeah.
Because that means that this is her first inkling that they are feeding them certain bits of information, as opposed to being completely honest with redacting portions.
Okay, yeah. I was taking this moment also that they weren't manipulating the information, they were withholding information.
You're saying lies of omission as opposed to just lying deliberately.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But it's not, I don't know. At that point, I still am following with Violet where she started to second guess herself that maybe it was top secret or whatever, that is confidential. But her mom still knows. All the higher-ups know about it. It's not Professor Markum withholding it from everybody, just from their class.
I have another question on all of this, though. 2 hours later.
Well, in a long roundabout way, information is being filtered to this guys, and...
Wait, what do you mean? I'm just teasing. It was meant to be a joke.
Like, what?
I put on my sarcastic face, but then I saw you not accepting that. And I'm like, I need to make this more clear.
So we go back. We're still there with Violet and Liam. They're reading the thing. At some point, Liam is flirting with everyone, including Violet. I wish that I wrote down what he was saying to her, but I remember just like, oh my God, he's so forward and so bold. I love it. And Violet entertains it, but not in the way that she was with Dane.
He said he would sleep in her room, if I remember.
Yes. Oh, no, I think it has something to do with they're making fun of her with Xaden at some point. And he's like, well, I could try out all these ladies for Xaden. Or what was it? It was something like that.
I was thinking of a time where she's like, her friend's like, why haven't you just cut loose and had any fun yet? And Liam's like, I'd throw you one. Kind of like what Riddick does before. And she's like, I said good sex. And Riddick's like, oh. And you're like, but wait, why wouldn't Riddick be good at it? You know, like he's got a funny penis. He's got like one of those jester dongs, you know?
No.
Why is that a problem?
Okay. No.
If my penis could tell jokes, it would be hilarious. I'd be talking to that guy all the time.
While they're all bantering, she's just having all of this drama between them, back and forth and whatnot. And Tarin gets involved and she's like, don't you have anything else better to do? And he's like, not particularly.
I love it so much.
He just like, him and Sorrengail just tune in on the drama going on at school and then they tune it back out. Let's check in. Just their daily gossip.
How bored would you be as a dragon at a certain point? Like the Empyrean is run so much. It's a much tighter ship than the humans have in this story. So I think where Tarin's like, she's like, do you have anything better to do? And he's like, the fuck else would I have to do? Like sitting on a meeting somewhere? No, fuck you. This is way more fun. I like that a lot.
Xaden has her room warded for only her to go through. I think at this point she still thinks Xaden can get through though.
He also didn't mention it to her when he did it, which I found so weird. Like, why not let her sleep a little more soundly? Just give her that information like, hey, don't worry, you've still got a guard dog outside, but your locks only work for you.
I think it was more his own form of entertainment. The idea of someone trying to walk through without holding her hand was entertaining to him.
Meanwhile, she's having sleep panic attacks and things because she might be murdered when her eyes fall. I'm like, how the fuck?
He doesn't care that much about her at this point. Or maybe he does. I don't know.
Clearly not, but I do think it's funny. I love that.
Then chapter 21 ends with the report being withheld from the class. It's not manipulated, but it's not given. Chapter 2, we're learning that Imogen has trained her really well. She is improving by a lot. And Tarin says that she's not ready to channel yet, but 3/4 of her class is channeling at this point, and she's feeling really nervous.
How much do we appreciate Liam in this moment as well?
Oh, making her feel better about it?
He's withholding the fact that he can do it the entire time, so he doesn't have to go to Car's class without her, so he can't keep an eye on her, and that's a lot for him to be trying to withhold and manage himself.
I forgot all about that.
No, that's what I said. He's not self-serving. He is the ultimate dude.
Wow.
Liam is so amazing.
What can he do again?
I don't remember exactly what his power is, if I'm being honest. I think it's ice or fire. I think it's one of the basic signets.
I think so. I write it down later.
Because she at this point doesn't know that he can channel. But can you imagine you suddenly get superpowers and you just pretend like you can't and you're like accidentally freezing or lighting shit on fire until you kind of figure it out and you're like, God damn it, I wish she could do this. Do you think it takes Violet longer to be ready to channel because of the amount of power Tarin has?
Yeah.
That her body is not ready yet to take that on.
Yes. And I think it was after how she handled Barlow that she was ready. Is that right?
Yeah. I think it became a tool of necessity is kind of how it happened. Is Tarin's like, first you need to learn, because without Xaden teaching her how to block out Tarin and Sorrengail, she couldn't control the flow of that power. Remember, when she first starts using it, it's a slight, like a crack open in a door, is how much power she lets flow into her from Tarin. So without that ability, I don't think her body could handle the rush that would come from Tarin.
Yeah. I couldn't remember when she was officially ready. And I thought it was after the whole Barlow situation.
It happens in these chapters.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
In chapter 22, Rhiannon and Vi are sparring. And we're learning that Rhiannon is too easy on her. I don't know if there were any complaints about Imogen. I don't think there were. It was just Violet needs to improve. Garrick and Xaden are shirtless and sparring. And she can't spar anymore, and neither can Rhi.
Nobody can. Everybody in the room except Dane, all of the women and some of the men, I believe is how it was described, are just watching them get after it. And it's so funny to me. Because it's a female gaze moment, right? Where it's just gratuitous in the funniest way. Because you do have Dane grounding this scene to a certain extent, where he's like, excuse me, you guys are at fucking work. Like, get back to it. And they're like, no, we're drinking this in.
And how I pictured Rhiannon and Violet's fight going is that they're directly behind Rhiannon and Violet's just like drooling off and just staring. And Rhiannon's like, what the hell's going on? Oh my God, as she turns around.
They are so attractive. Rhiannon is a lesbian, canonically. She's both ways, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But up until this point, we have not been given the idea that she isn't just a lesbian. There's a chance that this wrestling match turned her to a 50-50 in this bad boy. Like, they were so attractive that they scooched the dial for her, where she's like, I like them soft, but I also like them hard. Rock hard. And I want to address something else. You were completely right. Several episodes ago, you're like, oh, Imogen has a crush on Xaden too, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, don't be dumb. They're just friends. I'm a dummy. She clearly is thirsty as fuck for Xaden.
Because even in this moment, I'm pretty sure Imogen...
This is where I realized I was wrong.
Yeah.
And it was then in reflection, I'm like, oh no, I was so innocent and stupid before. You're right. Imogen really wants Xaden.
They play this off later because Violet brings up this insecurity with Xaden. I don't know if it's in this book or not. That, what about Imogen? And he's like, but who was with me every single time? Who was there on the mat? Garrick. I don't know how true that was in this moment. That Imogen wasn't ever thirsty for Xaden. It was always towards Garrick.
Yeah, no. At some point, Xaden addresses Imogen and Imogen kind of blushes. And Imogen is so protective of Xaden, not Garrick. She's defensive of Xaden in every moment. And then under the tree where she's making eye contact with him, blah, 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 sustained. You were 100% right. You were picking up on all the signals. I was not. I was like, they're just homies. And then I feel like, you know, when a girl becomes really good friends with a dude and she's like, he doesn't want to fuck me. And the girl believes it up until 4 years later when they finally get drunk and one of them's brokenhearted and the guy jumps on the opportunity and she's like, but we were just friends. It was like, no, this was his scheme the whole time. That's what I'm getting from Imogen now, but I'm being an idiot because I was like, they're just friends. Meanwhile, if he'd have been like, I need to fuck somebody, Imogen would have been like, I volunteer as tribute. Like, she would have just ran over there, just Winnie the Pooh in it, no pants. Just, pardon me, on my way to see the wing leader.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I think of Imogen towards him. I think there's something. I don't think it's...
Oh, it's lust.
Yeah, I would say lust.
Yeah, it is. You were right. Just
like every other woman.
In some of the men, again, it's addressed. Here's the thing, too. We don't ever really learn. Liam could swing that way, too, right? He could throw a leg over the fence.
I don't know. Yeah, he just flirts. He's just a big flirt. Which
I get, because I flirt with everybody. Or I did. I don't anymore. I've never flirted with anybody but you. Ignore what I'm saying at all. But it's a sport, right? And it's fun. But also, I could appreciate if at some point Liam's just like, hey, Riddick really needed it, so I threw him a bone. Riddick's like, well, I wasn't gay, but it was Liam. So I think that would be so funny to me.
Taking you back just a second where Xaden and Garrick, they're fighting, right? And I'm under the impression initially that he has everyone blocked out. So he's not getting this intense, intentions thrown towards him of everyone wants to fuck them type of thing. So he needs to block them out to stay focused on the fight. But Violet at some point thinks to herself, she wants every ounce of that intense focus on her. He says this later in another thing where he's like, this is what I'm doing for you. And this is... So he's obviously paying attention the entire time that he's fighting.
He's aloof. It's his character thing is to not acknowledge other people, except for in snippets where it's fun for him, which I like. What's funny is I think he hears everything everybody's saying. And he probably had a moment where he's like, oh, was one of those Garrick. Like, it might make him fight a little harder. Where he's like, I don't want to get caught in the rear naked, if you know what I mean.
Oh my God.
No? You know what I'm saying?
No.
He's like, Garrick wants to fuck me too. Like, maybe that's why he fights so hard. He's like, when we go to shower, if that soap falls, shadows are picking it up. And I love the idea. So I had this vision in my head. I think I'm slowly just writing gay fan fiction about this book. Because to me, it would be funnier. And I think you could do it without taking away from the character. But like if Garrick was just like, oh, he hears everybody want to fuck him. So then his intention, instead of fighting him, is like, I'm just going to kiss him real quick. And it throws Xaden off and he's like, oh my God. And Garrick just punches him like, gotcha, bitch. Or like, then he just titty twisters him and he's like, who's tough now? Purple Nurple. Gets after it.
Don't know where this is going.
It's not, that's it.
Completely ruined the entire fight
I ruined it for you?
Yeah, it's supposed to be the sexy, hot fight.
Oh, it's not sexy if it's just two dudes who are wrestling and, you know, playing silly games, like splashing each other in a puddle or something. I don't know what you're into. I don't know what you're into. I'm slowly realizing.
How can I cope with the information that I have to take in? Oh, I'll just have them want to kiss and titty twisters.
No, this is the fun thing. Garrick doesn't really want to kiss him, but he's aware that Xaden is sometimes a little too perceptive. So he's like whispering it, but he thinks the shadows will hear it. And he's just like, oh, and then punches him. I think that would be so fun for me. I did not mean to ruin the scene for you. It can be for you still.
You are ridiculous. Barlow comes in and he's insulting her. Surprise, surprise.
He kind of interrupts her lustiness, doesn't he? From this, or is that just Dane, where Dane was just like, okay, ladies, for real, back to work.
I think it was just Dane.
Good for Dane in this weird moment. I hate Dane so much, though.
But Barlow shows up. He's insulting Violet. He mentions that he has an orange allergy, so this is what we're seeing later.
He doesn't really. She gets this through observation, and this is 10 points for Violet.
Yeah.
They're going to eat. She's paying attention to what he eats so that she can poison whatever it is he's eating. And every time somebody tries to offer him some sort of citrus variant, he's like, what, you want me to die? Blah, blah, blah. This is absurd. And then she's like, oh, he has an allergy to this. It's not that he just doesn't like it. So I think that was a good observation on her part.
The only piece that kind of irked me later is Xaden gets upset that he obviously wasn't told and that she just can't rely on these types of things. But I feel as though she should just pack around orange juice all the time now, as soon as she found out. So she was prepared the entire time, whether she told Xaden or not. It didn't matter.
I'm just imagining she's just walking around with some, fresh squeeze, just in vials, ready to go. She's coating her blades in it. She's like rubbing orange peel. She's like, a little zesty today, are we, Barlow? Just ready to take it down. It would be so funny.
What is that nasty orange drink that you love growing up?
Oh, Sunny D.
Sunny D.
Yeah, it's called Poor People's Orange Juice, and it's awesome.
Gross.
Yeah, it gives me stomach aches, but that's the only orange juice I had until we were like almost adults.
Do you think Sunny D would work?
No, there's no oranges in Sunny.
Exactly.
I would love to say yes, but it's also called Sunny Delight, not Sunny Death, okay? He might be excited. He's like, finally, an orange drink I can have. You know what? That's how it should be marketed to people who are allergic to oranges. Try Sunny D.
So she mouths off back to Barlow. Dane is getting pissy that she is doing this, egging him on, and Xaden defends that she's not wrong in everything that she's saying back to him.
Yeah, and again, for a guy that's portrayed to be this big rule follower, he shows very little respect to Xaden.
Yes.
Which speaks to both of them to an extent. Because Xaden's clearly not holding him to the standard that the other wing leaders would hold their people to. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you second guess me, I'm going to beat your ass. Leading into this moment, I think, is when we also are reminded that Dane is a badass in and of his own on the mat. Because it's like, oh, Xaden is really, really impressive. Dane is the only one in our group that might have a shot.
I think so. I think it's implied that Dane is one of the best fighters.
Yeah.
And I think the only advantage that Xaden would have over Dane is his intrinsic powers based off of their skill and size difference.
Yeah, and the shadows. To be fair, the shadows can restrict your movements and this and that.
But you're not supposed to be using your powers in these situations.
I do agree. And that's where I kind of forgot that Dane was actually a badass in this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And it's nice that Violet acknowledges it for us to really get a better feel of almost the status of all the guys between each other and their fighting, and also including Imogen and Rhiannon and their skill levels against the guys. I just like that. We can see it.
Completely agree.
Xaden at one point says, I'm annoyingly aware of everything you do.
Yeah, which is, I think, really funny because it points to he is keeping tabs on her, but it also points to he's like, you do so much dumb shit. Like, he has moments like that too where he's just like, why are you such a pain in my ass?
So after they have their whole discussion, he's walking away and she notices the scars on his back and she's thinking about it in her head, and he cringes at the same time as she notices his scars, which was really sad.
Yeah. But also, you chose to wrestle shirtless. Okay, as somebody who has insecurities, you don't display them, generally speaking, if it's an insecurity of yours.
I don't think that it was an insecurity of his. I think most of the time everyone is noticing how handsome, attractive, ripped he is. And for her in that moment, she's narrowing in on the scars. And that, I think, was just painful in the moment, given the conversation that they just had.
I don't think that my way of thinking can match up to this to have gotten that without you just saying it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I took it more as he was just,
Oh, this is actually the moment that Tarin and Darna believe that she's ready. It was after the whole interaction with everyone in this room, between Barlow, Dane, and Xaden, all of it. That was actually when they said she was ready.
When she threw the daggers at Barlow. We can't skip over this, right?
Yeah.
She pulled the same move she did on Xaden, basically, where she, threw the daggers, and then Barlow ran off crying again.
Yeah, she called him out on running away.
Yeah, and then he does it after she throws the daggers. He's like, you're dead. And then he runs away like a weenie.
Yeah, I couldn't remember how he left the room, actually.
He just kind of bailed, I think, crying. He's just a baby.
Oh, I don't think so. I think Liam and Xaden scared him off.
Okay.
I think so. I think that they started getting involved, using their size against him.
And you would have thought the daggers would have done a sufficient job. If you're going to be physically intimidated, a knife is more than a big person.
It's at the end of this chapter that Tarin's horniness is flowing, Liam looking extra fine, and she still wants Xaden in this moment.
She talks herself out of wanting Liam in this moment. It isn't that she was like, oh, Liam looks good, but Xaden looks better. She's like, why am I feeling this way toward him? Blah, blah, blah. Sure, he's tall and handsome and capable and sweet and blah, blah, blah. She lists all the amazing things.
I could climb him like a tree right now. Oh my God, no, no, no.
And then she's like, oh no, who should I want to climb like a tree? Where's Xaden? It's funny to me because I'm like, oh, I get it.
I love Liam's reaction to this of almost fear of like, why are you looking at me like this?
Well, she about called him on his bullshit. Where he's flirting with everybody, and then she's like, she about took him up on it, and he was like, I didn't think we would get this far. No.
I'm so confused.
This is bad.
And she obviously finds Xaden. Xaden got a little jealous of Liam.
And I think Xaden takes an L in this moment. Xaden kisses her, knowing what's going on with her brain, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't fuck her, even though she's like, it would be cool. He gives into parts of this purely out of the selfishness of him wanting it.
But he is feeling the same effects. No matter how much he is shielding Tarin and Sorrengail out, he is feeling the effects, hence why he's smoking.
Yeah, he's smoking and he's blocking this out to a much greater extent than she. If she can hold back enough to just kiss him, he could have held back to have not done it. I'm coming up harsh on Xaden in these chapters solely because he takes so few. There are not a lot of Xaden moments that you can pick on, especially as we move further into these books. Other than his honesty stuff, Xaden, for the most part, just does everything right all the time.
Yeah, I guess I took this scene differently. I took it as this all makes sense because he does want her. He does like her. He did get jealous of Liam when she's talking about him, and he does want her. And then it's taking this moment of, I have more clarity in this. This needs to stop, even though this is something we both want.
He warns her beforehand. And then I guess I hear what you're saying, and maybe you're correct. Maybe I'm wrong. I just see it as he's so aware of his situation, and he's so aware of all of her intentions, and he's been dealing with this for years.
True.
She has the ability to stop at the kiss. Therefore, I refuse to believe that with his incredible ability to block things out, that he was under the same effect she was.
Yeah, I think you're being too hard on it. I saw it as he's helping her ground herself. Obviously, like
through
kissing.
kisses.
Yes, through their kisses. This is a moment when he sees her power, and re-listening to this, it actually scares the shit out of him. He's actually scared for his life. He pulls away, takes several steps back, like 3 feet away from her after he sets her down, and retreats as if it's his life is at risk.
Do you think it's because of her power or because it's the realization of his feelings?
I think all of it. And I think the lightning struck a hell of a lot closer than she realized.
Okay. All right.
And that's how chapter 22 ends. Well, I like that chapter a lot more than you.
No, I don't. I like that chapter. That's the thing, is I feel like what I said seemed like I didn't like the chapter. I did. I didn't like Xaden's behavior when he kissed her back. I thought was just wrong, but I liked that chapter because it is where she not only learns to shield, but he addresses how she learned it so much faster than he did. It points to her capability, and then I think there's so much character growth in this moment outside of that for Violet, but I don't see it there for Xaden. I didn't see this as a good moment between her and Xaden. I think the kiss had to happen because you had to build romantic tension.
I also saw this moment of him pointing out how great she was doing at shielding already for not even being in Professor Carr's class yet as another moment of why Tarin knew she was a good fit.
I completely, and it shows that Tarin was aware of her innate abilities, her talent, so to speak. She's the lightning princess.
Chapter 23, Rhiannon learns that she can now teleport items, retrieve items, small ones, and it's been a century since this has last been recorded.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
It was much more rare than I thought it was, thinking back on it.
What's weird is I don't remember it being a key point as we move through these books. And it seems like such a thing to make use of for a power.
They do use it right away with the squad battle. I can't remember them using it other times, though.
No, that's what I mean. In the second book, I don't remember it ever being used.
It would be really cool if she could just completely move a wyvern away or just a venom, just moving them, transporting, just drop. I would say the other implication of this is you can move small items like daggers directly into the wyvern ruins if you know where those are located in, you know what I mean? Or into the hearts of the venom. If you can transport things, it doesn't have to be long distances. I don't know. But it had been a century since that appeared. And yeah, I just didn't know how rare it was. Dane is hurt that she wouldn't show him his memories. And that's when he realizes he didn't ask, he demanded. I wish that term was used because he straight said, "You're going to do this." She's like, "No." So he's butthurt, and that Xaden believed her and not him. That's when he realizes this moment too.
Yeah, and I like, though, that she gives him a moment of clarity with this, where it's not like a redemption arc by any means for Dane, but it is Dane recognizes that, I didn't ask. That was shitty of me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think a good quality that came out of it is that he's receptive to this information from her and acknowledges that he was wrong.
Yeah, I think it points to Day not being a lost cause forever, really. He's able to acknowledge his mistakes.
At this point, when I was first reading, I did see him as a lost cause and was very surprised at the decisions he makes later. Now I can see where, oh, yeah, it does seem like he was receptive to new information and becoming a better person.
Yeah, his redemption arc is long and painful, though.
Professor Carr class begins because now she's starting to show some of her power, insults her about how great her siblings are and that she better impress.
The thing that I find interesting is they never make Professor Carr out to be somebody that you like.
No, you hate him from the very beginning.
Yeah, he is a straight-up villain. He's not an anti-hero. He's not a complex villain. He's just a bad dude. And he remains an asshole through the entire thing.
Yeah, because I think he's part of the interrogation stuff later. Is that right?
Yeah, his primary job is the intelligence section.
That's right. That's who he is. Rhiannon gives her a compliment of, you're the most powerful rider of your year. Or you're more powerful than Xaden, even.
Yeah.
She starts winning daggers without weakening her opponents. I thought you would like that. She's now getting to the point where her and Imogen are training, and she's genuinely a great fighter and winning daggers.
Yeah, it's what was needed the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that Imogen got to be that for her.
And it makes sense that Imogen doesn't care about Violet's feelings or making her feel good about herself and actually pushing Violet to fight.
Well, yeah, and I think that this is something that the book kind of doesn't address enough is, okay, so we know that Violet was supposed to be in the scribe quadrant and blah, 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 and didn't train a lot. But people still either want to murder her or treat her with kid gloves.
Yep.
Everybody is one or the other. She is so divisive. It is only Xaden and the marked ones, I would say, that just treat her like they do everybody else for the most part. Like, yeah, okay, some of them still want her dead, but ultimately they're not there for that purpose.
Yeah. So she starts winning the daggers genuinely. It's a nice way of telling us where she's truly at with fighting. That not only has everyone else been increasing their skills, but now she is completely caught up to the point that she doesn't need to obviously weaken them until Barlow. So Barlow shows up. She's going to have a fight with them. She made Liam promise not to tell Xaden. Finally, he's like, please, 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 can I break this promise? And she's like, yeah, now you can. He turns to Riddick and says, guard her like you're me. And he's like, what? Like I'm 6 inches taller and built like a bull?
It was a good moment.
Just a great Riddick moment.
Yeah, agreed. What does Riddick do to protect her in this moment?
I don't think he does anything.
No, not that I can recall either.
I think he calls out unfair fighting.
Yes. But here's my thing too. They're on the mat, right? And then when they recognize that Barlow is using his power, the person who's officiating, I can't remember his name. It's not
me either, but he's like, stop it.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of little hand slaps, little wrist taps. Like, stop. No, you're not supposed to. Please quit. It's very gentle parenting.
I think that it should be as soon as you do that, you're disqualified and you lost the fight.
Oh, I think they should just be like, fuck it, murder him. If you do that like 3 or 4 times, people are going to stop using the powers there. And these kids are dying anyway. Like, you might as well really lay out the rules.
I want you to retell this fight. Do you remember it well enough?
I know that she and Jack end up grappling.
Yeah.
And then he's injecting her with power, basically.
At some point, she's, I think, getting the upper hand on him. And that's when he starts using his powers. I think he's turning to venom powers immediately. Because I don't know what his actual power is from his dragon.
I don't remember what power Bade gives him, but I would say, too, we haven't been shown that the venom can inject other people with power. We've been shown that they can take it from people. So she starts really getting a lot of it from him. Like, he's pushing power into
So he claps his
cheek.
He puts his hands on her face and starts pumping her full of power from the ground, is my understanding. She notices the red ring around his eyes. They're all freaking out around him. I don't know if these details are correct, but this is how I interpreted the situation. So he's doing this. They're all freaking out that he needs to stop. I think she's feeling the power from him, but I also half wonder if she's getting part of her power to deflect it. It's kind of confusing because of the way she's describing it reminds me of the early signs of her lightning wielding. But I think other people come to pull him off of her, and he starts doing it to them also, and that they are now being affected. And I even think one of the cadets who was trying to save her gets killed.
I don't know about that part. I know...
Because people were sent to the infirmary, I think, because of this whole situation. And Xaden was upset with her for not telling him because it got someone killed is what I thought happened.
I don't remember somebody being killed. I'm not saying that didn't happen.
I don't remember. If so, it was so downplayed. I remember being like, wait, what? But yeah, I think it was affecting everyone. But the fact that they aren't really trying to talk about this more, about what Barlow really just did, is
weird.
Is confusing.
So the instructor is one of them that goes to pull him off, right?
Okay.
And he's also getting injected with this stuff. I think the instructor may be aware of the fact that Jack's been in. He may be a part of that, like a rehabilitation process, so to speak. But my other thing with Jack in this moment is, or I should say with Violet in this, is she has the ability to prevent other people's signets from affecting her, for the most part, right? Outside of physical effects, such as she can block power out stuff from Tarin. Why is it that she couldn't put those same walls up to prevent Barlow from injecting her with this power?
I wonder if she can. I don't know.
Fair.
Because do you remember when they're describing how to use the runes or something like that later?
Yes.
There was power, or there was things going on around them that they just weren't perceiving yet. Similar to Tarin's power flowing through her, she had to perceive it before she could close it out. And maybe she can't perceive other people's power being used on her yet before she can close it out.
It's a fair point. Yeah.
All right. I don't know.
No, if you're right, I'll run with it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So she's obviously fighting with him. I don't even remember where she gets a moment, but she uses oranges on him, and that's what stops all of it.
Yeah, I just find it so wild that nobody just killed him. You know what I mean? Like, where death is so common.
You pointed out that maybe the teachers do know that he's Venom, and he is part of this thing of how to...
An experimental rehabilitation.
Yeah, he's an experiment almost.
But Xaden. Why isn't Xaden just cracking necks, man?
That I don't understand at this point. Because if he is starting to get feelings for her, why is he fine with it? Other than what I'm holding on to is that he views it as that's Violet's kill to take.
If Xaden had the confidence that she could handle this on her own, Xaden would not have wanted to have been there. To the extent that he was, right?
Correct.
He does not believe she can kill Jack in this fight. Or that she would, maybe, is a better way to put it. So at that point, it's like, okay.
He does view her as capable. He does want her to do these things. He does want her to fight her own battles. And I think he views Barlow as her battle and not his to have.
But he would step in, is the idea, right? And that's why he wants to be there.
And
because otherwise, you're just witnessing her die.
Correct. Because I think he'd stepped in that last chapter when he showed up with, or maybe it was just Liam. I don't know. I can't remember. But it doesn't matter. He's leaving Barlow for her.
Yeah, which just seems like a miscalculation. Turns out it is.
We need some conflict in the book, and that's Barlow.
We do.
Chapter 24 is the Book of Brennan, and I love every moment of the Book of Brennan quotes because it's so sweet of how he talks to Mira and what he thinks of Violet. And then this is the one where he points out that Violet can't take a death blow. And that's a little foreshadowing of what's coming up. We don't have it yet. Xaden says that their kiss was a mistake, and this is 2 of 2 dudes who says kissing her is a mistake.
Yeah, I don't think she's good at it.
Oh, no.
Do you think so?
I think she is good at it.
She sounds toothy to me. Everybody's like, well, that was great. Let's not do it again. She's not getting a lot of repeat business.
You're such a butthole. Well, I'm assuming she's a great kisser, and that's why...
And that's why they don't come back?
That's why they don't come back.
Okay. She's too good. It's dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
She's like pizza when you're on a diet.
So now Xaden is training her and protecting her now more than ever after the whole Barlow incident. And also just, you need to ramp up your fighting skills. Obviously, there's sexual tension during this. Not as much. I think when he was fighting Garrick, there was more sexual tension than what I got from these scenes.
He was being objectified by an entire colony of women, though.
Yes.
Versus now it's just one.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't bring your daggers in. Disarm me. Is that this scene, right?
It is, because he got her a dagger, and I love it. It's so cute. But him saying that everyone's being too easy on you, but yet the 2 times that he has fought with her, he was being the easiest. Like, truly, it was just like, literally take them from me. So I think it's implying that his take it easy on her is still more than everyone else's, but I disagree. I think Imogen is still the best person for her to train with.
Completely agree. He's giving her lessons while doing things as opposed to telling her she's doing great. And I think that that's his version of like taking it easy. I don't think he's saying beat her ass. I think it's more like point out where she's fucking up. Stop being nice.
Yeah, that is more of what he's doing. So while he's not beating her ass like Imogen would be in this moment, Imogen's also not really showing her weak spots like Xaden is in these moments. He's more, you're being repetitive, you're doing this, you need to be doing this, and actually teaching her new skills. So yeah, there's benefits to all of it, I guess.
He's more instructive in sparring.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, but the way that he's like, disarm me, this is a weird formality. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, this, oops, I dropped a dagger into your hand type of thing. Because what is it? How many daggers is it?
I don't even know how many
like
there were.
9 or 7 or something weird. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot. Okay. And then she's like, I earned these daggers. It's like, no, you did not. He let you take all of these daggers. Like, come on, man.
Well, I think it's cute. And I think it's also really adorable that he made her this dagger. This is coming up later, but I want to talk about right now. So he has a dagger made for her. It has a rune in it. What we know about runes is there's something to it, some locking deal that we find out later, right? Her mom has a dagger with a Tirandor rune in it in her office when they go to steal the map.
My thought with that was that's the one that was used to mark Xaden. Because there's magic in the daggers. So that's how he was able to be held responsible for all of the marked ones. And that's why his scars are silver as opposed to scar tissue.
Oh my God. I never pictured her literally stabbing him.
I think it's like, it's not stabs. You weren't stabbed 107 times and survived. I think you were grazed, kind of, yeah, more or less lashed, but it's more of literally to put the mark on you, and you would use this dagger to do it. Kind of like tattooing, you're stabbing somebody with a needle, but if I say I was stabbed with a needle, I paid a stranger $1,000 to stab me with a needle versus I got tattooed, there is an implied difference there. And I think that's sort of what that dagger would be, but I think it's a symbolic thing.
I didn't consider that was the one. Well, that's heartbreaking. I was thinking you were going to go somewhere else with that. I'd be like, oh, well, it has this or this.
Oh, I could be wrong.
No, I bet you're right. Oh, and well, anyway, so she gets a dagger.
She gets several.
She does?
Every dagger she disarms him with now belongs to her.
I think it's such a cute way of him giving them to her. But I know for you, you're like, this is so dumb. Just give it to her if you're not going to actually fight her.
I think it's fine. I think it's good. And it provided them with what they needed in this, which was also a conversation about their kiss and all this kind of stuff, which I think needed to happen. Pretending it didn't happen wouldn't have been good.
Yeah. They also have the conversation of the runes and that it's lost history of Tirandor. This is another one of the little bits and pieces that we get that Navarre is erasing history in all of these locations.
Right.
There is a signet of someone who started on fire and burned themselves and another person who froze to death.
Again, what makes Liam so impressive?
Yeah, the fact that he did that all by himself when he was probably risking his life. The squad battle's coming up. She's starting to get the white hot power, little shocks to pull a watch to her hand.
It's kind of telekinesis, but it's, again, not heavily used
That
beyond this.
is a much better explanation because I was getting confused with how are you using lightning power to bring things to you and whatnot. But it's a lesser magic, and her type of power she is receiving is lightning style. I don't know how to word that.
So where I think we come up with a difference in this is I think the signets manifest in the individual, right? I don't think tarin has anything to do with why it's lightning. I think it's Violet's interpretation of this vast power that is the pinnacle of what she can utilize within that, right? But I think tarin's just giving her pure magic, just straight up magic, so it can still be used on these lesser tricks or magics.
Yeah. Right? Okay. Yeah, because I was just trying to wrap my head around how lightning power, or static in this case, was used to pull and move things and manipulate objects around.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's kind of like a computer. You're giving it electricity, and then you're using the computer to turn that into whatever's useful for that moment.
Okay. So she's pulled from Car's class. Dane is arguing with Xaden again. I disagree, back and forth. Xaden proves to him, he's like, clearly this class is not working out for her. And yeah, but anyways, they go and meet Panchek, Daddy Atos, and Mama Sorrengail to talk about Endarna, and they want to study her.
Yeah.
This moment in this scene, Violet's perception of her mom, and now that I know what her mom's views are, getting through all of this, her mom looks at her with a look of expectation. Violet interprets that as, you better answer, or something like this. Violet then thinks, well, I'm just going to disappoint my mom. I think the look of expectation was, you better lie.
Yeah, I think it is act in the best interest of your dragon.
Yes. Oh, I'm thinking more so of, where are your dad's papers?
And I agree with you. I think it's more of like, now be the independent woman that I raised, as opposed to follow the leader type of shit. And we know Panchek is gunning for General Sorrengail's job.
That's right.
And Atos is a slime ball. And you get that even in this. He's friendly, but he's got that used car salesman energy.
This whole interaction, the way that I took it, is that those two asked General Sorrengail for the information. She's like, I don't know. I know that Violet probably does, though. So you can see if you want to ask her.
Yeah, we checked. And I think her mom being a part of that prevented them from going and doing it without her mom there. And therefore, I think it was a method of control for her mom as well.
Yeah.
Being like, now I can help be there to, in some way, provide Violet with some sense of normalcy in this questioning.
Yeah. It's so shocking to see how much I think Violet misreads her mom in these scenarios. Because, yeah, again, I think her mom was asked the same question and she gave the same answers as Violet in this scenario. But Violet was just hostility. It's really sad. Xaden dismisses her question about whatever's going on between him and her mom. So when asked directly, he's not sharing this information. And then they do flight training for tarin to learn how to share space, and Darna with keeping up, and Sorrengail on learning how to follow.
Yeah, I do like that we also get some Sorrengail development in this, because this book is so much more tarin. And I like I said, makes sense. Tarin's the best dragon.
There actually isn't enough tarin in this book.
I would agree. I think I could use a lot less Xaden and Violet and a lot more Sorrengail, tarin, and Endarna.
Yeah.
Like, if the fourth book is just those three in their little adventures eating sheep, I'm reading it. I'm ready.
Chapter 25, Booker Brennan again says the squad battle is really just for the squad leaders to look good.
Yeah. The squad battle seems like an interesting thing that nobody prepares anybody for. And yet, they've all been first years leading up to it. Why is this Secret Squirrel? Because they act like it's going to be a physical battle.
There were some physical battles. There was fighting. There were these different stages. There was the gauntlet on the mat, these different stages. There were those things. I was surprised that if it was intended for the squad leaders to look good and for your squad to look good, wouldn't it be by having your squad leader there? I guess I could see both ways.
They address that because I think Dane is like, well, we should be involved then or something like that. Or no, it's one of the minor characters who's like, why wouldn't our squad leaders be here if it's about how our squads function in this event? And they even say it's about how well they've prepared you to act without a direct order, basically.
I also wonder if it's a way of determining who next year's squad leaders are going to be.
I agree. I completely agree. And this is the part, though, where I'm like, so some of the things the other squads bring are really basic. You know what I mean? Where they're like, oh, they brought a scribe from one. It's like, oh, okay. So it's like college hazing, basically, to a certain extent. And then where they go through the work and they get the map and stuff. Everybody trusts Violet so much with this. And it's so funny to me because in my experiences with Violet in the book, I'm like, no, we don't just trust Violet implicitly with these things, other than in their mind, Violet is the scribe of their squad.
I wasn't taking it that she was the scribe of their squad, but she is the strategist of the squad.
That's what I mean.
Imogen is great at leading and telling people what to do, like she did in this scenario, and even telling Violet, tell us your plan, and her making the decision, we're going to use that plan. But Violet is definitely the one with strategy and whatnot. She also knows the school incredibly well.
I would agree. She's been in Bezigai longer than anybody, right? 5 years. Nobody else has been there that long other than the general. And what I meant by Violet's the scribe of the group is she's the brains.
Yeah.
In this whole operation. So them taking a moment to notice that outside of us being told that, I really appreciate.
Yeah, like the people around her also view her this way.
Yeah.
But it's nice that in the next year, she does not become a squad leader because she would not make a great squad leader, I don't think.
Violet's not a good leader.
No. And it was just a nice balance of Imogen is a good leader. Violet is the brains, but she's not the type that's going to be very demanding of others.
No, and I would say Violet is good at, when she's given information, interpreting it. And then in other ways, not so much. Like, was she and her mom or she and Xaden? She's not good at that. But if it's just factual things.
Yeah. Emotionally, she is
vacant.
Learning and developing as a character. But as far as memorizing and working through the information that's given to her with, like you said, facts.
Yeah, you give her book smart. She's a book smart.
Yeah. So they're supposed to find and acquire the most advantageous piece for the war, I think. I don't know.
I think it's supposed to be the most impressive, basically, thing that you could steal.
Oh, I was thinking as the most useful, that if enemy lines were to steal something, what would be the most benefit to them? That's why someone got a name tag of some kind, because that would be very advantageous.
A name tag would be?
Yeah, they don't have their names to any of them. I don't remember why. It was explained why they don't have name tags on any of them. And they also keep their relics covered up.
Gotcha.
Imogen takes over, and here's a list of everyone's powers, because we hear about it in bits and pieces, but actually having it all laid out during this plan was really nice. Riddick has ice, Rihanna can retrieve, Sawyer has metal, Imogen can mind wipe recent memories, and she's fast. They point that out. Heaton can breathe underwater, and they are a they, non-binary. Emery can do wind, Nadine who can unwind wards, Quinn can astral project. Is this something that Xaden can do with his shadows? It's not really astral project, but he can make his shadows look like him and walk around.
I think it's more of like, that's sort of like a dummy move, right? In order to confuse somebody, versus astral projection would be more of you being more present. Does that make sense?
They look more identical to you.
Well, no. I mean, like, you can't see somebody's astral projection, right? It's a ghost. It's their soul leaving their body, basically. One of those things, so a shadow who looks like Xaden is for Xaden to not be present where he's perceived, versus astral projection is sort of the opposite. It is somebody who is actually present and not perceived.
We actually don't learn about Liam's signet in this. So I ended up Googling it. Liam's signet is farsight.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about this.
I did too. That's a cool one. Oh, and it's kind of brought up that he can see things far away, basically. He's eagle eyes.
Yeah.
I took it as foresight at first, and like he could see the future. And then in going through these chapters, it is brought up.
Yeah, he has farsight, but he's not in their squad? Why wasn't he here with them? Huh, that's interesting. But, so they're going to sneak into General Sorrengail's office, and while she's running, she says, I've never run this fast in my life.
Uh-oh. She's got her superpower going. Second signet. She's a little faster.
She's just a little bit quicker. It just kind of stood out to me because we pointed out how fast Imogen was, but I half wonder if she beat Imogen where they were running to.
I just love the fact, though, that pointing out somebody's physical speed, right, is such a funny thing to do in these moments, too, because I can't think of a great thief where their greatest asset was that they were able to run faster than most people. Does that make sense? Like, you're not implicitly sneaky because you're fast. You're just fast.
Her speed becomes part of her trauma later. And that's what?
Imogen's?
No, Violet's. Because she sees that if you're without your dragon, the speed that you have to run to get away is so much. Because after she has this first interaction with a venom, she sees something that happens, and then she spends every day running and running and running, trying to be faster and faster and faster.
I see it. I mean, in this moment in particular.
No, in this moment in particular.
She's fast. It's like, why are you guys racing to this room? Like, the whole idea is to sneak in there and steal something. There is no such thing as a group of bandits that are just sprinting places and stealing things. That's just not how it works.
I don't know. I saw it more as laying the groundwork of speed is something
important to Violet.
Important to her, and her recognizing she's not fast enough to get away from a venom or the...
She has to be able to outrun a wyvern.
A wyvern. There we go. Yeah.
But I just mean taking it as this moment. You didn't find that a little bit funny? You didn't like visualize Ocean's 11, but they're all short distance sprinters?
No.
I think it's so funny because sometimes when it's brought up, it's just like, oh man, I'm pretty good at working on houses. And my buddy here, he's a real asset because he can run fast. And I'm like, huh, that's a weird thing to have in there. Like, is it cool that they can run fast? Yes. Is it pertinent in this moment? Probably not.
Well, that's where Heaton, they can breathe underwater.
But it's addressed as, that's not handy here.
Yeah.
But it might come in handy later.
Yeah.
And it would. But we don't ever get there.
I don't think yet. Oh no, does Heaton die later?
Well, okay, but they haven't been a pinnacle of this story, so...
No, I know, but I don't remember. But their power would be really useful.
Yeah, but when?
I don't know yet.
No. I mean, from what we've read, when would you find it?
How did they find out that they can breathe underwater?
That's what I'm kind of getting at. When would this have come up? Like, my signet's manifesting. Really? Well, I was taking a shower.
That's what I thought.
And the water just kept going in my mouth, and I thought I was going to drown in there because I was full chicken mode, just mouth open, agape. Well, swallowing down the water, but I didn't need to take a break for oxygen. It's not that it isn't a cool power. I'm just wondering when it comes up sometimes.
I wonder if they were just taking a bath. I don't know.
I'm sure, yes. But
I don't know how they found out.
Let me put it this way. I, in my 33 years, cannot definitively tell you I cannot breathe underwater. It has never been attempted by me. Not once. I think you could find out in a pool or something. I'm not suggesting there was no way to know. I'm just saying it's a wild signet to have discovered.
It is.
What are they doing in Car's class, right? Like, is there just a kiddie pool there? And it's like, now breathe for the rest of class while in the kiddie pool. Just face down. They've got a boot on him or something. I don't know.
I have no clue. In the moment, I just pictured that they were taking a shower and that they were just like, oh my gosh, like I can breathe this. I don't know.
Right. That's what I mean. It's just fun.
And they're in the office and we find out about the dagger. And you broke my heart now on this.
Sorry.
It's okay. I thought there was going to be something where, yes, she knows how to use runes. I don't know. But anyways, they get the map. I think this is the biggest object that Rhiannon has moved before also. And this was so big that 2 people needed to hold it. And she retrieves it as they're running. How do you feel about how they treated the guard in this situation?
Oh, it was really funny. Like, it's so shitty. Why? I think it makes sense because you're playing war games, basically, right? But it does point to being, there wasn't a lot of strategy involved with making sure you wouldn't get caught. Does that make sense? It was more of like, you're just powerful enough to get away with it when you do.
They were very limited on time. I think they barely even made it back to present the map.
That's true. Yes, you're right. And I like that they chose it. Like, I like Violet's whole thing with this because it is the coolest thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Because you've shown that it's not even safe in the general's office. But we weren't shown like a bunch of security measures to the general's office either. We know
there's wards and a guard.
Right. And I think that's where it's like, it is impressive, but I expected more security. Does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah, it does.
I expected this to be a longer chapter, I think, or a longer section within the chapter is the way that I would put it. Because I love that they introduce us to everybody's superpowers. I like that she addresses the Tyrish dagger. And she's like, she uses it for letter opening, I'm sure. And I'm like, oh, that's not what that's for.
No.
But it gave a lot of personality to the moment. I just think it could have been longer.
They knock out the guard with wind, and then they drag him into another office or closet or something. And then Violet is like, that's not enough, and gives him a drink to keep him knocked out until the next day. And I think it was Riddick who's like, you kind of scare me. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, it is a little intense. Like, the dude's knocked out. You just need to get somewhere else. For just another 30 seconds is all you need.
There was no need to incapacitate him for a day. And you could have just as easily had Imogen wipe his most recent memory of them ever being there. And then who gives a shit if he woke up?
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's funny because you had a superpower that would have been so effective. And instead, Violet's like, I'm going to lightly poison him.
Yeah.
And you're like, but why? And she's like, well, I have the poison.
I brought it. I have to use it now.
Yeah. And you're just like, come on, Violet. You did so great leading up to this.
But it was a scary moment with Violet of seeing what she would do in that situation.
For virtually no gain. Like, there is some gain to it, but that's the funniest thing is it wasn't a necessary thing. It was she wanted to cause that guard some extra pain.
Was there information on this map that the students shouldn't know?
Yeah, it shows all of the battles and everything going on in the surrounding areas, I think is the idea. I think that's what makes this map different than a map that's elsewhere.
Yes.
Is the classified battles and stuff would have also shown on that because General Sorrengail would have to be aware of those things.
Because in the moment, the only reaction we really get to all of the cadets seeing the information displayed to them, because it's kind of being ignored by everyone of what is on the map. It's more like, wow, you got a map from that location, seemed to be the heavy emphasis. Markum and Devera, their jaws are dropped and they're coming forward. They're in distress over it. But it's only a 1 or 2 sentence line about those two reaction to the information that is being shared.
Yeah, that's where I think they basically stole a classified document from their mother's office.
Yes.
And this is also a moment where Violet, I think, becomes more aware of the fact that they will probably be brought into battle sooner than they would have otherwise thought.
Does she reflect on what she saw in this map later?
I'm trying to remember, but I know at some point it gets brought up where she's like, we probably will, within our second or even first year, be conscripted into battle from here. And I think this is more of where that realization hits because they see the frequency with which they are engaging enemies.
In safe locations. And she points out one of the locations is that southern border where the cliffs are at. That doesn't make sense that anything is happening.
Regular or wherever.
Yeah, that anything is happening over there.
Is there a waterbender in the whole group? Not in this particular group, but do you remember there being somebody that has like water wielding?
I would assume there is. I don't know who.
If we were strategizing about how to kill off the venom, I think we could use that cat.
And even though there's signets that are very cool, there is still limitation of power based off of the rider. And that I really like that detail of this magic system.
Yeah.
That Violet is kind of unlimited in what she can do. Her limitation is herself. And then all the other riders, it's not only the limitation of their dragon, but also the limitation of themselves.
That's fair.
Fourth wing water signet in the AI overview is there are several water bottle and sticker options related to fourth wing book series.
Nice. Well, that is the question.
That is not what I wanted.
Thank you, Gemini. You've really knocked it out of the park.
Anyways, I don't know who it is. So that's when the scene ends in the most comical, adorable way. She looks to Xaden, blocks everyone out. She cares about no one but Xaden's reaction to all of this. And she gets a tiny little smirk and tip the fedora.
Yeah. And that was, again, it's the validation she craves.
Yeah.
It is so fun to me.
Because he gives so little of it.
But she doesn't do that same thing for her mom, who also seems to not give her validation.
I think what's hard is I think her mom is giving her validation. She's interpreting it incorrectly.
But that's what I mean, is she perceives her mom in the same way that she initially perceived Xaden, where it was all malicious, right?
Yeah.
And it makes sense that she would crave validation from somebody. I'm going to say a controversial thing.
Okay, what is it?
Are you ready to be upset?
Oh, no.
Are you ready to not be upset?
I don't know.
Maybe that's a better way of putting this. Do you think Violet has daddy issues?
No.
Okay. See, and that's where I probably should have worded that differently. Daddy issues, not in the sense of she has an issue with her dad. More so, she seems to crave male validation. Does that make sense? Like, Riorson can offer high fives and everything, and kind of has since the beginning, right? Since they traded shoes. But she seems to initially want Dane's validation. And then when she moves away from caring about Dane's opinion, it's Xaden validation.
Maybe.
And maybe I'm misreading this. Like, when she sees Markum's disappointment in her and stuff, she seems to have a different relationship with the male validation versus the female validation she receives.
Yes, I do see that. Yeah, I do.
And she seems to be almost adversarial with her mom's validation.
Yep. Because, yeah, I view...
Maybe it's a brother issue.
Oh.
Maybe there's that, too, where who she really looked up to the most was her father and her brother. So maybe that's where the male validation is more impactful.
I don't know.
And because she doesn't seem to seek that same validation from her mom, right? And even she and Mira have a good relationship as far as siblings go, actually. I think it's pretty good considering your semi-post-apocalyptic scenario they're in. But I also wouldn't say that she's not craving Mira's validation.
No.
And she kind of she gets, weirdly though, she doesn't seek it from Tarin in the same way that I would envision. If I'm seeking validation from somebody, it's probably the Billy Badass Dragon.
Yeah, he doesn't put up with it either. He gets kind of annoyed whenever she's down on herself.
Well, and I think it goes to show, though, because he does keep readdressing. He's like, if you don't believe in you, fine. Don't believe that I'm an idiot. Like,
for choosing you.
This is the thing. And it's always like, I don't care if you trust you. You need to trust me. And it isn't a question. He even says, you will trust me. It's not like, oh, this is an optional thing or this will develop. It's like, no. That is the condition of their being bonded.
Yeah.
And I find that really, again, Tarin, there's just nothing. There are things I could pick on probably with Tarin if I felt like it, but I am not incentivized to pick on Tarin.
No, Tarin is perfection.
This is the thing. Tarin is to me as Xaden is to you guys. Like, I am ignoring anything. If there are problems with Tarin, I sincerely don't know what they are, and I'm not interested in hearing them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's where maybe I've got a bit of a blind spot, because with Violet even, what I love about Violet is Violet's frail and becoming less so, and it's triumphant, right? The only thing that I kind of lose a bit with this is initially we're very focused on Violet's fragility. And as we move through this, it really is more focused on Violet's mental stability than her condition.
As it should, because her mental abilities is why Tarin chooses her, or at least in my opinion, why.
And I'm agreeing. I think the beautiful part of this is we start off with something that is not only out of her control, but not something that you just overcome through will, right? And growth in that sense. And then it moves into Violet's developing as an adult and as a writer, and then as a person, just within her own self. And I really like that. Like I said, we're at the point where I actually like Violet as a character. It just takes a little while to happen for me because initially it is so focused on her physical abilities, and those just aren't that important. And I love that the author takes the time to address that in this way, where it's natural. It's not a after-school special.
Yeah. I've loved Violet from the beginning. I like how she thinks. I like how she navigates through the world for the most part. Do you have any other notes that you wanted to address?
No.
I love you.
I love you.
You're my bestie.
You're my bestie.
It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Yarros.Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.